Hello everyone, I am Tacit, and today I'm going to be going over the Gems of War event objectives for the Last Crusade event, and Sir Hector is added to the game. So this week, most notable thing is we have a Vold event weekend going on. However, we also have the entirety of the August event calendar. So some of it's actually on July, oddly enough, for how it falls. So here we can end up seeing, of course, Vold event weekend this weekend, starting exactly on the 1st, which we'll also be getting a new Mythic that day as well, since it is the first Friday of the month, and is actually falling right on the 1st, so pretty much immediately at the start of the month we'll be getting that Mythic. Other things we have going on throughout the month of August, we have 2 new pets for International Cat and Dog Day on the 6th and 27th, so make sure to pick up those, as who knows when they'll end up returning. Due to where the Vold event is falling, technically right on the 1st, and due to the 4-week or so interval that it normally has, we actually have 2 Vold weekends next month. One literally on the 1st when it begins, and then another one right at the end, so we get to double dip Vold event weekend for twice next month, so that's pretty nice. Beyond that, Guild War restriction is for that of Suncrest. Only annoying thing about this is we have no Suncrest event week leading up to it, so if you are missing anything for that event for Guild Wars, you're kind of out of luck. Hopefully we'll get it in like Glory Key, Gem Key drop table, stuff like that. However, yeah, there's no way to target it between now and then. Unless something shows up in Soulforge that happens to put your team together or something similar, we have absolutely no way through the actual event weeks to end up getting anything for Guild Wars by the time the event rolls around, which has kind of been annoying with some of the Guild Wars. Obviously, veteran players or people who are like super endgame, you know, you probably have most things, all things. However, you know, for newer players, mid-game players, it can definitely be pretty annoying, given that you pretty much have no way to prep for this whatsoever. You just kind of have to hope you randomly get something. If you don't, you just got to scrap together whatever you have to try to build a team for Guild Wars. Beyond that, other things we have going on, we do have a summer event of some kind going on for 2 weeks. I actually forget which one this even is. However, we do have that starting on the 18th, and that'll be running for 2 weeks with the pet, the legend, all that kind of good stuff. That normally has, as well as Power Orb. I believe this is the first guaranteed Power Orb we've had ever since the Dagannoth has been in Soulforge. So if you've been needing to get your Maelstrom Dagannoth, and you're still missing Power Orbs for that, you should be able to get one of them during this event for very cheap. So definitely make sure to pick it up, as cheap as you can ever get it. And the next one after this one probably isn't until October for the Halloween event, so it's quite a while before you can get another free one like that, or pretty much free. So yeah, definitely make sure to get that as first opportunity to get it, other than through you know, crafting it through Soulforge and everything. So great time to go and get that. Beyond that, Feast and Beast event, not sure what that is, but we have that going on for the final week of the month. Well, this is a really busy month. There's not a single thing where something is not going on. The first day of it, we have a Vold event weekend and a new Mythic. The week after that, we have a new pet. The week after that is Guild War. The week after that is a 2-week-long event. And then partway through the 2-week-long event, we got another Vold weekend. And then we have whatever the other event was. Wow, that is so many things going on throughout the entire thing. Update 8.7 is currently expected to be released by the end of August as well. I'm actually not sure what's in this patch, but gosh, that is such a busy month. where are they planning to put it and all that? I guess technically it'd probably be on this week then, on that 26th on Tuesday. But he said by about the end of the month, and that is the week that has probably the least going on, even though it's those Vault Week and everything. Technically the absolute least would be the 5th, though I highly doubt they're going to get it out that quick. But yeah, I would say 26 if I had to guess a day then, based on that wording for the 8.7 patch. But yeah, they've been pretty consistent, doing one per month. Obviously, a lot of them have been pretty small. Like the most recent one has been, you know, kind of just switching up the early game a little bit. But beyond that, you know, we'll have to wait and see exactly what it has in stores then. Okay, so that's everything for the calendar. Let's go and start getting into all the teams for the week. So, not that many to mention, because, of course, it's Vold event weekend, and everything else throughout the week is pretty standard beyond that. Journey event week is specifically just take whatever the highest battle is. Journey troops are still nerfed into the ground, but you still have to build entirely around them. For the specific restriction, we have to use specifically knights that are yellow, centering it around completely around Angelica, because, of course, you need her for extra points. Ideally, you want to upgrade her. Unlike things like Raid event and Invasion event, you do have to upgrade it to get extra points. Having her on your team simply does not give you the full amount of points. You do need to max her out in order to get the 3 times miles, both in fully traded as well as fully ascended. As far as what she does, similar to every other troop like this, ends up dealing a bunch of damage to an enemy, creates a bunch of colors based on whatever the restriction is, in this case yellow, and does it based on whatever the restriction is as well, which is knights. So based on yellow knights, and you'll end up getting 10 yellow every single time that you end up casting this, as your whole team would end up being yellow knight. Keep in mind, you probably want to be setting your hero class to knight as well, It is the only hero class that is a knight, and they do have 10%. Even though it is a White Helm event week, White Helm class, the priest class, has no extra bonus this week. But the knight hero class does have 10%, but the most noteworthy thing about this is the only class in the game that counts as a knight ever since they made Death Knight into Daemon or Undead, whatever they did with it. Now that they end up doing that, yeah, this is the only knight hero class. So if you want to get that full bonus for her to end up creating the maximum amount of yellow gems, you do need to set your hero class as knight. This is a little bit of a weaker hero class. However, the main thing that is going for it is the same thing that Mech and a few others have going for it. Dispel. Gets to extra turn Dispel, single extra turn, gets rid of all status effects from enemies. Most notable one for this is Submerge, so that if you have something that can hit all enemies simultaneously, you can still hit all enemies simultaneously, which is what we're doing with this. We're just using her, spamming her, because she also has double magic for the invasion event, and, or not the invasion event, I mean the journey event, and we're just doing that. High amount of damage there. Guard's Avatar, high amount of damage based on its armor. If it takes any damage, stop using it probably. However, as long as it doesn't take any damage, it will be higher than Angelica. Otherwise, you spam your Angelica. And Sir and Hadley just to hold down the line. Also gets to convert for a little bit of Skull Poke, and more importantly gets to convert a bunch of color, purple specifically, into yellow, which your entire team is pretty much forced to be yellow, including your weapon, which here we're just using Wand of Stars for extra mana accumulation. Then you can put whatever you want if you want a little bit more damage or otherwise, but I figured this team needs this a little bit more mana, so we end up going down the Wand of Stars route. Actually end up doing similar for the low rarity team. If you don't have Wand of Stars, you can just put any mana accumulation weapon here, but once again, obviously we have to use Angelica. For this, I did put Immortal Empyrean here. I think this is the first time I've ever bothered using him in a team. However, I do generally consider the Immortals from PvP to be low rarity. He does not need to be fully traded, though if you do have him with his 4th trait, he will get 2 burning gems every single turn for a little bit of extra red mana accumulation, but just okay mana or damage source, I mean. Ends up doing some splash damage, so 50% to adjacents for true damage to 3 random enemies. Overall, a decent amount of damage, and is boosted by burning gems, which of course he ends up creating himself. And if used, the other part doesn't matter, because we won't be using it in Central Spire. And Lammer Stew here ends up converting yellow to purple, which might sound counterproductive because we're creating a bunch of yellow off of this. However, the thought with this is if you're using a weapon like Wand of Stars or something similar, you'll be able to clear enough board that after you go and do that, you'll be able to have a better board with Angelica. The other reason why this is somewhat useful is yellow and purple, or assuming you're spamming the better one of the two, the creating elemental stars, you're going to not want to have as much yellow purple on the board. And this overall casting something like this actually reduces the overall amount of yellow and purple on the board as you're converting all yellow to purple, and then everything's cascading beyond that. So it'll make it a little bit easier if you're doing the 6 elemental star creation off of Wand of Stars for you to end up getting alignment. So it might seem counterproductive to counter out all your purple, but it does feed back into both of these. Wand of Stars can then more easily clear the board, and then you kind of just get right back in rhythm with spamming Angelica then. We are using Angelica and the Immortal as our main damage source here. Worst comes to worst with any team build, just using the Journey Troop as your main damage source can be okay. Ideally, you do want to have at least one other troop to be able to go and use whatever that mana is, in this case yellow. So for the other team, of course, we end up using Guard's Avatar as our main fill option, whereas on this team we end up using Immortal Empyrean. And if you don't have either of these, just put whatever your best yellow damage source is here and end up holding down the line that way, or simply just put more mana accumulation to go help your Angelica out. As far as the faction event, this is a brown yellow restriction for that of Hall of Guardians. As far as Hall of Guardians, we can run pretty standard, just Atlanta Quick Kill. Just running double Atlanta, 75% mana start makes her really easy to go get rolling. As far as mana accumulations, we don't have as many good for starting ones, but we do have Ihi Cattle. Also, if you can get your hands on this, hopefully from pure RNG before the Suncrest Guild War coming up, this is a really good Suncrest Guild War troop coming up. Obviously, we'll be covering that for when the Guild War actually comes around in a few weeks. However, yeah, really yellow heavy centric category. And this is one of the better ones. I wish we had this kind of Empower for every color in the game. Right now, I believe we only have it for green and yellow. But basically, it has a Storm into its color. It uses the color. It has Empower into its color, and it gets to convert into the color. We're also storming off of ability into its color. It's a really, really nice combination. Only yellow and green have it at the moment. And hopefully, eventually, all 6 colors will get it. Though they kind of forgot about all the other ones, but maybe at some point they will. Beyond that, for the higher rarity team, we're using it once again as a mana accumulation, but this time feeding into Wand of Stars and Catharix. I think I've been showing this combo quite a bit, but it's pretty good for high rarity. It's just doing the 2 of the 8 Power Orb Mythic, specifically Catharix into Maelstrom Dagannoth. Kind of similar to how you do like a Zolgoth Catharix team or something similar. This is kind of the more modern version of it. So you have the high mana accumulation, everything from the Catharix, and then the Maelstrom Dagannoth Juggernaut for its insta-kill into also a high amount of mana accumulation and also extra turn. So just kind of running that and using E-Cattle to get off the ground, Wand of Stars for all the immunities to get things going, and then just kind of keep spamming from there until you end up winning out the battle with insta-kills. As far as the pure... Also, and Underworld has nothing immune to insta-kill as well. Underspire does, but Underworld does not. So this ends up working out really good for this game mode whenever you're trying to push out higher difficulties. As far as Pure Faction is concerned, oh, I didn't build the Pure Faction team. Well, we'll build it live, or whatever you call this right now. Anyways, so this is for Hall of Guardians. This used to be a pretty annoying one, though, with how much stats have been added to the game and everything like that. Like with most Pure Factions, has gotten easier over time. A couple different ways you could end up running this, depending on how you want to go about it. But generally, I think this is what I end up ultimately running when we end up winning it way back when. And then we just go, I believe, a brown yellow. Actually, did we go for the red here? I think we actually go for red. As much as yellow is nice, I think we go for a brown red. So basically, the whole premise of this is Silent Sentinel. You want to make sure this does not die. You want to get a bunch of life gain on it in order to go and keep it alive. Basically with this, it gets to silence the enemy whenever they end up taking a skull on you. And you very much want to kill the first enemy as quickly as possible and then go and get them silenced. The main thing that is going to kill you if you're going to die on this Pure Faction is the enemy's Gargoyle. Their enemy's Gargoyle, or as well as your own, ends up boosting based on all ally attack power. And since this is a level 500 faction, or you know, if you're running on level 500 Pure Faction, they have really high attack. So the Gargoyle, depending on what your stats are, can one-shot, two-shot, three-shot you, depending on the stat disparity, but it can do as high as one-shot you. So, yeah, that's very scary. So the main strategy to end up winning is using the Eternal Sentinel, try to get attack onto your Silent Sentinel while it still has a high armor value. Then once it starts getting hit by skulls, that will end up silencing them. But you want to try to kill out with both your high skull damage that you'll have from these Eternal Sentry, working on your Silent Sentinel to get its attack value up. You want to use that attack value combined with your two Gargoyles in order to go kill the first enemy Sentinel, because their second slot in the team, which will make more sense if I just go show the team, is a Gargoyle. So, oh wait, I can't actually show it because I can't get there. Wait, can I show it? Yeah, I can. So their second troop right here is a Gargoyle. So basically you want to dump all your damage, go get your attack buffed on your own Silent Sentinel, go dump all your Gargoyles on their Silent Sentinel, and get their Silent Sentinel dead while you still have yours alive. Then you want to bait out a skull so that their Gargoyle ends up getting silenced, and then from there you basically auto-win the battle. Because once the Gargoyle is silenced, it's not an auto-win because they still have a little bit of damage there with attack value and everything, but it's a lot easier to negate their skulls than it is to negate a Gargoyle that can basically one or two shot you whenever it feels like. So yeah, that's pretty much the strategy. Just spam down Silent Sentinel and then let it bait out a skull until you can go silence their Gargoyle, and then from there it's a pretty clean fight for an auto-win. And that's the Pure Faction for that place, which is this Tuesday. This Thursday we have Priest Hero class. This you have to use specifically Divines from Whitehelm. For this, just use your best yellow weapon that hits all enemies. If you don't have this, you can use, what's it called? Dancing Daggers, I believe it was. Dancing Daggers from 250 wins on the Drifting Sands Hero class. This would be your alternative if you don't have something like Dawnbringer, but of course if you have Dawnbringer, use that. Just use it with a bunch of yellow mana accumulation. For here we have Empower into yellow off of Mercy, and then we're just using Double Paladin for its Air Link, and you can also do it to poke down an enemy if you have some excess yellow going into it for Mercy, or simply just from taking yellows on the board. And that's pretty much the whole game plan there. And then for Underspire teams, this is basically anything from Whitehelm. We do have access to one of the dragons, so this is generally going to be the main thing you build around. For this, we're using mech so that we can dispel away any submerge that they have. And your main mana accumulator is definitely going to be Angry Mob here, even though you do have things like Mercy and a few other things like that. Angry Mob is basically like Thrall, Bogstrider, similar things, even Bork. Main reason it's not used as much is it does have quite a bit of a higher mana cost. There is a human from this kingdom that you can use to give it a 50% mana start, but due to it still requiring 7 mana even after that, it's generally just better to go feed it directly and just kind of use it 20%, and just kind of put some more support onto your team or more mana accumulation general on your team. But this is really good. It's basically a one-man army. You can win pretty much any battle with it. It might take forever, but you would win. Ends up destroying basically the entire board, or it depends on your magic, but almost the entire board of destroy, and then has the capability of doing a little bit extra damage or summoning itself. This is really good because it'll always keep damage pressuring while just resummoning in a whole army of itself, which can also end up just auto-winning a battle. So worst comes to worst, your entire team will just be 4 angry mobs, and you'll just whittle down the enemies very slowly over time. Unless they have some kind of good way to hit everything simultaneously, then you could end up dying. but assuming they have some amount of damage pressure, some amount of, getting skull distracted, you can pretty much just keep spamming Angry Mob until you win. It's very slow, but it would win. Obviously, you want some kind of big damage source to offset that, and if you happen to have the yellow Cosmic Dragon, ends up working out really, really well for that. Really high amount of damage, decent amount of extra turn chance, really tanky as well, and you basically just keep spamming Angry Mob into whatever your best damage source is, and that's the whole premise of winning this current Underspire. As far as the low rarity team, we're doing a pretty similar build with that. We're actually, oddly enough, not using hero on this. You can end up adding it. A lot of the weapons from Wayhelm are pretty average. You could go for one of the mana accumulation ones or something similar and offset it like that. But basically with this, we're just using Angry Mob into, oddly enough, the new Glory Troop that end up coming out this week. It's not the greatest, but, if you need like a cheap damage source, it's definitely fine. If you have better, you definitely want to be running whatever your better option is, of course. But this is a pretty cheap, accessible one. Also, I forgot to go level him up. I did everything else on him. Forgot to give him his levels. I was wondering why his magic seemed just a little bit low. Though I don't think that helped him that much. But he chooses a mana color, then destroys all gems of that color, and then deals a bunch of damage to all enemies that use that color, boosted by gems destroyed. For this, you mostly want to be aiming for extra turns rather than necessarily doing damage to an enemy. Basically, with this, you want to go get Mercy to kind of get things rolling off the ground, get Angry Mob eventually to full mana, keep spamming Angry Mob, and then use Sir Hector whenever he has alignment after between spamming or Angry Mob. And basically just keep alternating between the two. Arcane Golem can stack a bunch of attack if you end up wanting to win that way. You can also get stuns on the opposing team to get rid of any score reduction, spell reduction, or anything else that they have trait-wise that might be annoying. And Mercy also has Cleanse for the entire team, which is basically the opposite of stun, while also giving a little bit of life to whatever your weakest ally is, which will allow this to get a little bit better tankability, as unfortunately this does not have an attack plus durability gain. However, you can basically offset that by having attack on this, which it does itself, and Mercy being the life gain for it. So you still have it, you just have to spam a little bit more mana accumulation to end up getting it. And of course, if you feel like you're dying too much, you can end up replacing one thing on the team for like Elementalist class or something similar if you need to offset with whatever hero weapon you want. Just run a super tanky hero class, either in first slot or otherwise on the team. But basically, Angry Mob into whatever your best damage source is, similar to the other team, is what you're running here, with that being the cheapest option pretty much, and this being the most expensive one, running the yellow Celestial Dragon. And Hero is kind of just here mostly for Dispel. You can run whatever weapon you want. The whole core of the team is the other three. You don't really even need Hero here. It's just basically purely for Dispel, but you can get a little bit extra mana accumulation or even damage if you want to with the weapons. This is Wayhelm weapons, honestly, are not that good. Unless I missed one. But Wayhelm just does not feel like it really has that much of a weapon other than like some resummon exploding weapons. Divine Protector is actually pretty decent. The problem is a lot of the teams you won't be running due to Angry Mob is not pure Divine, so you're not going to be able to get the full value out of this. You could run pure Divine to get better value from it. The problem with this is you're giving up Angry Mob's high amount of mana accumulation, so normally it's better to have that rather than running a really good weapon like Divine Protector, which is one of the reasons for that. The Doom Scripture is also pretty decent, but unless the enemy team is pretty much pure yellow, it's not really worth bringing that out. So a lot of them are like really situational ones where they're really good weapons, but under the context of the team you'd be running, they're not really that good. I would say Fist of Heaven or the other exploding one that we're using, the Shield of Vengeance, are probably the two main ones you're going to be running on either the low, high, mid, any rarity team, as they have resummon and a decent amount of mana accumulation. It's just you don't really have a particularly good damaging weapon unless you want to go pure Divine for Divine Protector and kind of doing that. But otherwise, not too many good choices. Otherwise, it's just going to be for like a very situational time, like if they're like pure yellow or similar. Beyond that, so Soulforge. Is there anything relevant this week? Kind of. The main one that I saw here was Flaming Ani earlier. So Flaming Ani is a pretty good for Goblin teams. You definitely do not need him to build a 4x Goblin team, but he is sometimes put on one. The most notable thing he has with him is probably one of the better summons in the entire game. He summons 3 random goblins, which goblins, of course, pretty much all have auto extra turn for the most part, almost all of them, like a good like 95% of them. And it also gets to explode almost the entire board. It doesn't specifically do green, so if they denied green, it will be a little bit worse. But it's basically Leprechaun and how much amount of mana accumulation it does, which might sound expensive given that Leprechaun does it for 12 and he does it for 22. But of course, the main thing with that, like with every goblin, gain auto extra turn definitely changes that a little bit. While it is 10 mana more, it is auto extra turn, plus he uses an extra color, so a little bit easier to mana accumulate into. And he also gets to convert 2 red gems into burning gems every single turn, which does not actually give you any alignment value. However, the benefit of this, of course, is getting the entire enemy team burned. So if you're using something like triple damage burning or something else on your team that can utilize the burn value, you would end up getting that as well. But be able to resummon an entire goblin team when in a pinch is pretty useful. Like if the troop goes down, double troop goes down, if somehow he's the only troop left, he resummons a whole team. And there's a lot of really good goblins out there. So sometimes you'll go from nearly losing a fight to just rebuilding an entire team in one single single cast. So really good in that regard, really good backup troop, and still pretty much like a slightly better Leprechaun for overall mana accumulation. I do feel like a lot of quick kill Goblin teams don't really use him just because his higher mana cost makes him a lot more annoying to get up, especially without 50% mana start or anything like that. However, yeah, it's not bad. And definitely a good troop to offset Goblin teams depending on what you're specifically using it for. And probably the only thing worth mentioning in this current area. As far as weapons, I would say Divine Protector pretty high up there. While oddly enough, I don't feel like it's as useful for a lot of things this week due to it being a night yellow restriction rather than a divine yellow restriction. If it was a divine yellow or divine it's something that this weapon could actually be used, then I would say this would be pretty good. But yeah, it's a really great weapon from it. Has cleanse, has I believe barrier to itself, a few other things like that, decent amount of mana accumulation. Really good in 4 times divine teams with like divine Ishbala and everything. The problem with that is just for White Helm restriction related things, it's just not as good. There's just not as many ways to build around it properly. The main 2 that you're really going to be sticking with are the 2 explodey weapons. Actually, there's 3 of them, my bad. Oh no, this is not the explodey one. The 2 explodey ones were Fist of Heaven or whatever the other one was. Here it is, Fist of Heaven. This one has stun the first slot, and one other effect, I forget what it was. I think like barrier. Stun and barrier, I believe. I know for sure it's stun. Yeah, stun and barrier. And ends up doing based on divine, and then the other one does it based on White Helm, which is probably the one you want to go for, as a lot of times you're going to be using Angry Mob as your mana accumulator. So using Shield of Vengeance, while I don't believe its effects are as good, it's good to do it based on all White Helm, which is a lot more synergistic with something like Angry Mob. So if your team does start dying, oh, it does have barrier at least, so that's still nice. So if you are going down like the Angry Mob route, this will definitely be a little bit better, especially if you're using like Holy State Astra to end up going down that route as well. I don't think I actually showed that, but it does. You do have access to 50% mana start. So of course the White Helm restriction this week is event keys. So with that being said, we do have access to Holy State Astra and a few other things. It's an okay event week to throw down event keys for. Probably just to get the legends. I probably wouldn't go as far as trying to necessarily farm out the mythics. But overall, the things that are and are not in drop table include, the main things that are not in drop table are the 5 faction troops from Hall of Guardians, the current journey troop of wherever it was here that we showed it earlier. Where is she? Well, there she is, Angelica. She is not in drop table. The 2 of Swords, of course, is in Vault Key drop table, same as the Temperance. Both the 2 tarot cards are in the Vault Key drop table. The Yellow Celestial Dragon, unfortunately, despite how good it is in the Yellow Cosmic Dragon Egg drop table from Soulforge. And the Immortal Libra is from the PvP Burning Marks. So as far as everything else that is in drop table, what would you really be looking for? I would say you're mostly, oddly enough, just trying to get Holy Saint Astra. She's a 50% mana start to all humans, and you know who human is? There's a very specific human. Oh, I think I overrate all my teams from earlier. Let's see, do we have one? Let's see. I'm not sure if I have one from last week. No, I don't think we have one. But, oh no, do we just clear? I don't think there's anything else to mention here. As far as mythics, yeah, you're not really caring about too many of these. Archdiva's kind of fun. Guard's Avatar is pretty decent. You probably see me using a lot. But they're generally things that it's okay to throw some event keys to go until you get a mythic. But a lot of these you'd kind of just target out with diamonds down the line. But yeah, you're mostly just looking for a Holy Saint Astra because, aside from some things you could do this week, there's a very important troop that counts as a human. And that is Tesla. Tesla is very notably not a mech at all. So she can't 50% mana start off a mech hero class. However, she is a human, so she can get 50% mana start from Holy Saint Astra, and Holy Saint Astra is available this week in the event key drop table. So you can end up target her out, get her pretty quickly. So yeah, you definitely want to get that. A lot of teams don't necessarily need 50% mana start for Tesla. Obviously, you could put a bunch of other mana accumulators on your team in order to offset the fact that you don't have 50% mana start for Tesla. However, if you do want it, yeah, it's available this week. So really great combo. Obviously, she runs through the entire game. Pretty much any game mode where you can end up using her, she just scales through the entire game. 2, 3, 4 shot. There's not a single battle that she won't be able to clear out pretty quickly. So overall, yeah, pretty nice. So if you want to get that 50% mana start, is available in the event queue drop table. That's probably the only thing I would go for the most part. Things like Guard's Avatar and the other thing, you probably just want to target with event keys, with diamonds in the future. But if you do want to go until you end up getting one of them and test your luck, as you do have about a 50-50 when you get a mythic, a 50% chance it'll be either dead content or something actually useful. So it's kind of in the middle, but yeah, Holy Saint Astra is the main thing you want to make sure to not leave this week without in that regard. Aside from that, other things we have going on this week. Tuesday we have, as we mentioned, the Hall of Guardians event, Brown Yellow Restriction. Wednesday, one of the old dragon pets. This is for Celestacia from the Kingdom. I believe it's the first time it's been available at 100% rate. This was available pretty recently, a couple months back. but it's been a drop table as well. It's just this is the first time it's ever been directly targetable from a Wednesday event. Thursdays, the priest hero class, generally not used that much. Unlike a lot of the other hero classes that give a bunch to a color, priest only gives +2 to yellow rather than the 2 that gives +3 of Archmagus and Corsair. And similar to Corsair, it does not have a natural 50% mana start. And due to Divine not having 50% mana start, it doesn't even have a 50% mana start, only 40 if you use Divine Ishbala with it. And Divine Ishbala is not from Whitehelm. So for the most part, this class gets pretty unused. It's not a horrible hero class, it's just so niche that other than like event weeks like Whitehelm, I think I used it for like the Thursday class event, but unlike event weeks like this, it's pretty much the only time you end up using it. And of course, this Friday, as we mentioned, we got a Volt event weekend, so Friday, Saturday, Sunday, great time to be going and farming quick battles, like Quick Kill Explorer, or even just easier PvP battles, but mostly Quick Kill Explorer. And yeah, just go get a bunch of battles in, go get a bunch of Vault keys. How many do I have left? 100 on the dot. I need to open some of those tonight on stream. I need to go clear these out for next Vault weekend so we have a nice clean stack and we can start opening into and go from there. Oh, and there's the other event that's coming up around the corner. Anyways, beyond that, anything else we missed? So Guild, we already kind of went over it, but just to reiterate, course for the Journey event, you want to definitely make sure you spend 210 gems in order to, at bare minimum, get all 3 of these. The weapon, so you don't have to get in the future, but most importantly, the troop they end up getting by the 90 gem mark there. This is the only way to get it. You cannot get it through any other drop table this week until the next event where you will be able to, but for this current event, it is only available from the shop thing. You need this for her extra amount of points and everything. You use 2 blue orbs on her in order to go get her fully maxed out for the maximum amount of points and be good to go with only 210. Or if you want only 1 blue orb, you can go for the, what is that then, 460 gems and go all the way to tier 4 and end up getting that way. However, yeah, you definitely want to make sure to get her in the weapon just so you don't need to get in the future. And you're basically just building around her. She gives double magic, she has 3x score, and you have night yellow restriction. So you're going to be building really heavily around Sir Quentin Headley if you have it, which gives 50% mana start to all knights, aka your entire team. Obviously, you probably want to be using Knight Hero class, specifically with Dispel. Dispel is going to be pretty important if you're using something that hits all enemies simultaneously, most notably Guard's Avatar. For the low rarity team, I believe I put something on it that kind of hits past it. The new guy actually does hit past it if you do want to use him. Even though he technically can hit all enemies, he hits all enemies in a way that does not check Submerge, because he's hitting each one independently, which I believe I showed for the low rarity team, at least for Underspire I did. Where is it? I'm looking for, oh yeah, I forgot about that. I didn't even mention this guy. This one's actually pretty noteworthy too. Tome Knight, I didn't show either team with this. Destroys a column, gains a bunch of armor and attack, boosted by yellow gems, and gains barrier. Really tanky, really good overall first slot. If you find you're dying too much in early game, definitely worth considering. But yeah, this new guy, he hits in a way where he hits each enemy independently, but it checks in a way that does not hit all enemies simultaneously. So even if he was to, let's say, do it on a blue gem and the entire enemy team is blue, this will not check Submerge, as he is hitting them independently each as far as how it's checking it, rather than hitting all enemies simultaneously. So yeah, it does bypass Submerge, which is nice. So you don't need to worry about getting Submerge locked there, so you don't necessarily need to have Knight Hero class in that situation. The main reason you generally want to be using Knight Hero class for this event is the yellow spam off Angelica. You'll only be getting 8 instead of 10 if you end up doing it that way. And with her 20% extra stats and double magic, you're generally going to be using her as a pretty big damage source. Even compared to Mythics, like, you're obviously getting more damage from a Guard's Avatar cast, but you're going to be using it as a pretty primary damage source, especially if you're missing some of the Mythics that can do the higher amount of damage. And of course, as far as path, this is, of course, I think like the 3rd journey that we've had ever since they buffed journeys and made them quite a bit easier. But you always want to be going for whatever the highest mile one is and just using winning as quickly as you can. You do get penalized for every single death on your team. You also get penalized for taking too many turns. So you generally want to be winning as safely and as quickly as possible. So damage pressure is pretty important. Otherwise, you'll start losing miles, though you will eventually get deep enough where you're pretty much going to guarantee lose miles regardless, as the battles go on long enough where it's pretty hard to get maximum amount of score, especially since they've nerfed the journey troops still. Event keys we already went over. Probably just Holy State Astra is the main thing you want to go for. And I guess the only other thing to really mention is, of course, the guy himself. If you go over to the weekly event, we have Sir Hector here for 400 glory each. Really great time to be stocking up on yellow-blue arcanes if you end up needing them for anything, as they're only effectively 200 glory each. As far as him, not bad, not great, but not horrible. 20% extra stats this week, so actually a little bit usable compared to normal, and then you're basically never going to touch him again. But he gets to choose a gem, destroy all gems of that color, which means you do get the mana accumulation, does say destroy, but the main thing you're going to be using this for is to try to get extra turns. So you're going to destroy a color almost purely for the extra turn. It is way better to destroy something that's going to do almost no damage or even 0 damage to the enemy team in order to get like a 5 times match or something similar, or 4 times, rather than using it otherwise. Of course, you can damage pressure it near the end of a battle, but you're normally going to be targeting this for extra turns rather than maximum amount of damage. And then it gets to deal a bunch of damage to all enemies of that mana color, boosted by gems destroyed. Overall, its boost ratio is pretty bad, its traits are pretty bad, and outside the context of this particular event week, you're probably never going to touch it again. But if this is your best damage source, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's going to be probably a little bit more damage than Knight Coronet, which is probably what I would normally have suggested for something like low rarity in this category. And as I mentioned earlier, that one other yellow-blue one that gains a bunch of stats is also a pretty good option if you want to run that as a tank. Didn't end up showing in either of these teams because you do have access to something like Immortal Empyrean. If you do have access to this, even if you have him at level 1, something like this is probably going to be your best early game damage source. And you could just offset for other mana accumulators if you don't have like something like a Lammer Stew, or even go that other tank that we were mentioning earlier in your first slot and run, I forget what this thing was called, that one yellow-blue with barrier. What I forget his name? Yeah, this guy, Tome Knight. So if you need some more tank ability, you can drop Lammer Stew, put Tome Knight in first slot and run it that way. And then just do all your mana accumulation off of whatever your hero weapon is. Ideally Wand of Stars, but if you don't have Wand of Stars, whatever your best yellow mana accumulation explodey weapon is. And then your team would be Tome Knight, yellow explodey weapon, Angelica, and Immortal Empyrean. So you can go either of those routes depending on what you have, what you want to end up running. If you find you're dying too much with Knight Hero Class or something similar, can end up running it down like that as well. Anyways, I think that is everything. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful week. As we mentioned, we'll be around at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight, kind of just messing with everything for the week. Mostly probably messing with Journey, doing the Vault Keys, as we got a Vault Event weekend this weekend. And I'll probably stream one of those days as well, just kind of messing with the Vault Event weekend as, of course, best time to be grinding in the entire game. So definitely got to go cash that in, go get these stacks nice and topped off. And of course, we'll be covering a video this Friday on the new Mythic as well, as yeah, it's falling exactly on the 1st, so we are going to be getting a new Mythic this Friday. Not sure how good it is yet, I haven't actually peeked at it yet, but hopefully it's decent. As I don't know, Mythic's been kind of hit or miss lately. They've been in some really good ones, but then some other ones have just been, you know, just dead content that they normally add. But, you know, it's always nice to see one that can actually be used, even if it's not going to be that often. It doesn't need to be like the entire meta, but, you know, it's always nice to see a Mythic that will actually get some amount of usage rather than something that comes out and will be immediately dead the second it exists. At least have some kind of category where you're going to be running it for some kind of typing. I wish more troops were like that for every single round across the line, because there's just too many glory troops that come in and too many mythics that come in that the second they come out, they're never going to see the light of day. At least make them good for like one category, even if just like Knight or White Helm or, you know, just like one random category out there. At least have one singular thing you could do occasionally, like maybe like once a year, even if it's not going to be like the meta of metas that you're going to use like every single week or every single day or something. But anyways, guys, have a wonderful, wonderful week. I'll catch you guys later, and thank you so much for watching. Goodbye, everyone.